All right, guys. Hi, I'm Isabel. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Walton. I'm actually going to let my guests introduce themselves. I would say, well, I guess I'll do a quick introduction. We have Orkun, who's the CEO of Citrea, Robin, the creator of BitVM, Sims, the CEO of Alpen Labs, and Ariel, who is CSO of Fairgate. So thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to start with a little bit of sort of kind of positioning the four of you in the space and just kind of grounding into like who you are and what your companies are doing before kind of getting into the more detailed questions. I also promised to leave some time for Q&A. Is there a clock, by the way? Okay, awesome. Thank you. But yeah, I'd love to start by just asking the CEOs plus Ariel to just sort of chat a little bit about their particular brand of a BitVM implementation and sort of what makes you unique. I think that might be like a good place to start, is to kind of introduce your company and sort of what you think you're doing that's different in this sort of broader BitVM conversation.
Yep, this is open now. Orkun here, founder and CEO of Citrea. Citrea is the Bitcoin application layer that's actually powered by the first kernel upon Bitcoin. So the relation with BitVM is BitVM powers our bridge between Bitcoin and the Citrea as basically a layer 2 on top of Bitcoin. And with BitVM, probably Robin can explain better, but there are a couple more components, such as like the first component is the script that verifies the ZK proof, and the other component is the bridge, who coordinates all the signatures around this scripts and actually lets you construct different kind of light clients to move Bitcoin in and out to some layer. So for Citrea specific, we call our bridge Clementine. It uses BitVM in this core, but it's actually on the bridge side, it has some modifications from the actual code base and compared to the other code bases, which we believe makes it right trade-offs. There's always like, there's no best construction, I will say, but there's different trade-offs that a bridge can make. And for us, we believe we made the best trade-offs there to make it work well with Citrea.
Awesome. Sims, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sims from Alpen Labs. So kind of a interesting, maybe fun fact, unknown. We started Alpen Labs even before BitVM. Obviously, BitVM was a fantastic breakthrough, and we engage and work on BitVM, BitVM 2 quite a lot. And I think in terms of, your question was like the particular way we're using this, right? So we were quite involved within the BitVM Alliance, contributing to the BitVM 2 implementation, whether through some papers that some of my colleagues you've seen, like Liam and others, worked on proving pairings to the implementation, and working out the bridging protocol as well. These are kind of two different things that we see it as, and often gets talked about in the same way. There's like, how do you resolve challenges, as Orkun was talking about, of arbitrary compute, and how do you build then a two-way peg using that core primitive. Where we are today is a lot of our focus is going to a garbled circuit-based design, which we call Glock. And the reason for moving towards that is really around, at the end of the day, we want to build the simplest kind of two-way peg and the most auditable and the most secure and transparent peg that we can make. And there's this is more recent work around garbled circuits, but there's this evolution of, I think folks call it BitVM 3 as well. We call it Glock, in very similar types of garbled circuit-based technologies. Really allows for that. I think not just the efficiency, but the security and auditability. So
thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Futo, and we were just talking about the origin stories. We were really focused on MPC. When we learned about the BitVM paper from Robin, we got really excited about that. We were also working on RISC-V technology and MPC at that time, and we kind of found a lot of interesting synergies between what we were doing and we have learned and the BitVM proposal. So we started working around the ideas of constructing complex programs that can be verified, and started dreaming about building variant of BitVM that we ended up calling BitVMX because we started choosing other trade-offs. And our positioning, if I have to define it shortly, is about trying to create a platform that would enable lots of possible applications that could be built by people that has some technical level but that can benefit from having a proven, robust software platform to write these kind of applications. We are using bridges because it's what's more exciting. We have built a couple of bridges to guide how our platform should be, but we are dreaming of a more broad space of applications, and we are constantly thinking. Yeah, we're thinking about the differences. We ask about what are the differences. I think there are a lot of similarities and common goals also in this room.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to just ask you a more specific question, but you're welcome to dive in.
Yeah, I'm in it for the money.
It's my favorite Robin line, by the way.
What I mean by that is I believe in here what people have on their t-shirts, fix the money, fix the world. I know it's a bit of a naive dream, but I think life is better living it with such a nice dream in your heart. And I really think fixing money is that would be a great thing. And to fix money, we have to scale Bitcoin and also make it private. And that's why I was working on stuff like ZK coins, which is essentially a protocol to have private payments and scalable private payments, which eventually also was the inspiration for shielded CSV, which is kind of like the fleshed out version of the original ideas of ZK coins. And that requires some kind of bridge. It's essentially also a layer 2. And that's why I was interested in working on bridges and eventually came up with BitVM.
Thanks. I'm curious, Robin. My first question for you is going to be, as the creator of BitVM, but not necessarily affiliated with any company that's actually building a bridge on the commercial level, how do you see your role in this, in sort of shepherding this technology? Like, how do you view your own personal role and responsibilities in this broader ecosystem, given your sort of lack of formal connection with any of the commercial implementations?
I'm exploiting all these companies. Like, I'm working with their researchers and their developers, and I'm nerd sniping them into like helping me build these bridges that I need for ZK coins. And
do you feel any responsibility to this technology? Do you feel that you have like a pivotal like kind of like vertical to play in this, or are you just nerd sniping and
I mean, I'm engaging in the politics to some degree. For example, founding that BitVM Alliance, I think that was a very important step because the ecosystem kind of like tended to fragment and like everybody built their own version of it. And I think that's like a losing game for everyone. So I tried to align the incentives of everyone and like make them contribute to one common implementation that everybody contributes to, and then they build their L2 on top of it, which makes everyone like win because a common implementation of essentially the core helps everyone to harden it and make it as secure as possible.
And the original implementation that you were sort of collecting around was this BitVM 2 snark verification implementation. Is that right?
It's. In the beginning, we also built a bridge, but it became very clear, very quickly it became clear that all of the L2s, they kind of like need their own version of bridge because it depends on which kind of side system you have. Some people want to build side chains, others want to build roll-ups, and next ones, they want to bridge to Ethereum or whatever. And whatever use case you have, you need like slightly different bridges, and that's why we couldn't agree on a particular bridge implementation, but on the snark verifier in particular, that is common to all the bridges, and it was quite simple in the end to align everyone to contribute to that snark verifier.
Something that's been, I think, a very hot topic of this conference in particular has been this garbled circuits conversation, the sort of move that most of the implementations are making from using BitVM 2 architecture into some sort of garbled circuits implementation. those seem to be more less universal, right? So there's going to be multiple implementations, is sort of my understanding, by these different companies, or maybe I'm wrong, maybe the BitVM Alliance will continue with the sort of more universal garbled circuits implementation. I'm not sure. I'm curious, like, how you see the BitVM Alliance basically continuing its mission in a post-garbled circuits world.
It changed the game a lot because with garbled circuits, it's not as clear what the best solution is. In BitVM 2, it was clear this is the thing that we want to build, and everyone agreed that we want to contribute to that. With the garbled circuits approach, it was way different because it's not very clear. There are a lot of unsolved challenges, and that's why people started exploring all kinds of different directions. Also, there is a huge body of research on that topic, and exploring that body of research was also part of exploring what is the right solution for Bitcoin. But we are doing that in the BitVM Alliance. Essentially, everyone, or like, all the researchers of all the companies of the BitVM Alliance, they pivoted to researching garbled circuits, but we are having these weekly meetings, we are having meetings at conferences, and we are sharing our research, and it's really a collaborative effort, I would say. People are contributing to a common knowledge base and exploring together the search space.
Do you see garbled circuits as an extension of BitVM, or do you see it as something different that's...
Yeah, BitVM is kind of like an ambiguous term. I would say, in that sense, BitVM is like a umbrella term for a set of tricks that together in combination enable bridges. And it's a lot of different tricks. For example, you have these Lamport signatures to introduce state, you have connector outputs to introduce state, you have this idea of using optimistic verification and challengers and operators and challengers. And you have like this how to build a light client and all these different components. And of course, you have that component of a snark verifier. And that snark verifier is, of course, the heart of it all. And that's essentially the toughest part. And like BitVM 2 was one way to build a snark verifier, and garbled circuits is another way to build a snark verifier. But all the other things, like all the bridge contract around that, is essentially the same thing. It's more or less the same kind of tricks that you need to build. And that's why BitVM 3 is kind of like the umbrella term of like using these kind of tricks, but with garbled circuits now. Of course, there are all kinds of different brands, and people want to position themselves and distinguish themselves, so it makes a lot of sense to also have different names for specific things. But I guess like on a high level, it's a advancement of the previous research and the research around bridges and the research about like how to have the most efficient snark verifier in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'm curious, Sims, obviously I think Alpen Labs has sort of really made pretty like publicly clear that they are moving in this direction of developing this technology under the brand name Glocks, and perhaps there are technical and or commercial reasons for that. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about the decision to kind of maybe retract a little bit from the BitVM brand and this new architecture and sort of adopt this new sort of Alpen branded distinguished term that is Glocks that, you know, kind of Alpen can own.
Well, I think we thought Glock was pretty funny. Like it's like a, you know, it's a Glock. It's a garbled lock is what it stands for. And this also made intuitive sense for us as we thought about, you know, like we talked about this a little bit here of there's really like two kinds of things going on here. There's this kind of like primitive for verifying arbitrary computation via a snark. And doing that optimistically. And so there's a whole class of different solutions around it. At least this is how I see it. BitVM was a class of solution around it. The challenge resolution was, you know, many rounds, but you know, low on-chain costs. BitVM 2 was an incredible idea that brought this down to like much smaller, very tractable rounds, but more on-chain cost as to resolve claims about arbitrary computation. Then we just see Glock and these garbled circuit-based approaches as a natural extension of how do you, this class of optimistically verifying arbitrary computation on Bitcoin. Now, ultimately, even with BitVM2, like we also call it, I'm not going to argue with Robin, the creator of BitVM's definition here of a set of tricks that enable these kinds of two-way pegs or bridges. But I find that definition difficult for myself only because pretty much every team has a different BitVM2. And so there's this, I think as most people would understand it, maybe outside of the technical work, they would think, okay, it's the same kind of thing, but really it's the same kind of primitive, but really with different bridge instantiations and even different sets of tricks. So like, I know Fairgate, has some incredible papers out around Flex and around Toop, which is solving some really important problems with the bridge constructions. Not everyone is adopting that. So yeah, the reason for Glock was we thought it was funny, and we thought it made sense in the context of hash locks, or these kind of more simple kind of constructions. Garbled locks are the smart locks, so to speak. You can kind of unlock based on the validity of arbitrary compute.
Something that there seems to be some agreement around or consensus around is this idea that garbled circuits has essentially made obsolete BitVM2, which I think leaves many of the commercial implementations with sort of the sunk cost problem. What do you do about BitVM2? We've already paid all this money for this audit. We've built all this stuff. Are you basically, I'll start with Sims, just sort of, we're kind of on you already. Are you guys planning to kind of abandon your BitVM2 and just like go head first into BitVM3, just drop everything and go forward with with Glocks? Or, are you taking a different approach?
We like BitVM2. We think it makes sense. There's just a lot of complexity relative to Glock around, we had to take a Groth16 verifier, implement it in Bitcoin script. That's already quite complex. So we're contributing to the audits, and it's certainly something that we're still keen on and interested in. But the direction that we're invested in much more, as we even get to mainnet, is around Glock. It's just, we want the simplest, most auditable, most secure option when we go into mainnet, and so that's the reason.
Would you say that it's fair to say that you intend to go to mainnet with Glocks and not with BitVM2?
That's the current, that is the current plan.
The plan. I'm curious to hear from you two as well on that. What are you doing there?
Yeah, I think there are like two different interests in a company that can arise in here, especially in our case. One is like the intellectual interest, and the other is the more business interest, I will say. So we have invested almost, I think, 2 years, or definitely more than a year, to BitVM2 implementation and a bunch of audits. And we already have basically the signers, or you can call it covenant committee, ready to launch the mainnet. So for us, there wasn't a reason to just like wait until the garbled circuit research are mature enough and the implementation is there and everything got audited. So we simply wanted to just like go with BitVM2, which we already know the code base very well, and we have the integration with Clementine, and we have all the infrastructure partners ready for the deployments. So that's the direction we choose. But at the same time, we are basically still contributing a lot to the garbled snark repo in the BitVM organization, which is the base of what we will use in the future for the bridging. So personally, I believe more on an iteration level where we ship something to the products people and get feedback on it and then improve. Even before getting feedback, we can understand garbled circuits makes everything much more efficient and better. But just like going out, because this system doesn't only consist of just the bridge part or the verifier part, but it's the whole system that has applications on it. And we don't want to just like keep it wait until this research matures enough. So we can just ship the product, get feedback on the other parts while improving this part, so that everyone can win, including the users, testers, ecosystem players, and us as a company.
I think given where garbled circuits is right now on the research front, it's clear that that will probably help get you to mainnet faster in the short term. I'm curious, though, if you have any concerns about that maybe slowing you down in the long run, or,
I mean, we were expecting to, I think, finish BitVM implementation beginning of this year, and it like the audits I think just finished, right, a couple months ago. So there's a very high error rate, and like when you estimate some complex things like BitVM2 or garbled circuits will be ready to use in production. So I think there's too much risk for a product company to take. So we definitely believe in that future and also put a lot of efforts into it. But it's just like a trade-off between you want to ship now and iterate on it, or you want to just wait to see if it's, even we don't know if it actually will work with all the parameters we set in our mind.
Yeah, well, I would like to add a couple of comments. I think that my perspective on this is that this is both an engineering problem and a research problem. And this space has a lot of innovation, so we can get, I don't want to say distracted, but we'll get really interested. And you said they're sniping. I think we really get very interested. These problems are really, really exciting. But if we want to construct a system that is going to be handling a huge amount of money, that is not a research terrain. That is engineering terrain, and engineering requires small incremental changes, but you need to do things in such a way that you are, of course, incorporating these innovations, but in such a way that you end up with a product that is robust enough to resist all of the adversaries that are going to be there because of the incentives managing this. So this is at the same time a complex problem because we need to balance these efforts of doing research and doing engineering at the same time, I think. And having something that is in a sense as backward compatible as possible, so that you can replace a modular replacement of different parts. I think that we're all thinking about maintaining part of the bridge design and changing like the dispute channel or the dispute mechanics, and we have been anticipating because we know we are seeing some of the drawbacks or the trade-offs with some of the solutions. So we're kind of anticipating. I don't know. Maybe garbled circuit is like the final solution. How things are going, we might be discussing something completely different next year. That might be possible. I don't know. So, and I think that we are, in a sense, from the engineering point of view, we are kind of prepared for this. I mean, as researchers, we are really, really enjoying this. From the engineering part of our companies, they are saying, okay, calm down a little bit. Let us plan.
I'd like to add something on this. I think there's a nuance that's worth pointing out when we talk about garbled circuits. It's like an umbrella term, but really, it's I think when we came to this decision to put so much resource effort around Glock as it relates to the mainnet roadmap as well. The most important question we had asked was internally: are there any research problems open here? Any open research problems, or is this matter of engineering at this point? In our particular instantiation of this garbled circuit-based approach, we felt like the core research problems were already solved, which gave us kind of if we felt like that was not the case, it wouldn't have given us that kind of confidence to say, okay, this is a better kind of approach to take into mainnet, and it's also the path is there. To be able to do it.
I think it's important to kind of think about okay, what are the real practical implications of this garbled circuits, tech jargon that we're jamming about? Obviously, that is the liquidity requirements needed by bridge operators. I'm curious how those conversations are going with folks on the bridge operation side for the commercial implementations. Are those conversations substantially changing? Are you getting new players who want to now participate in bridge operation because it's so much cheaper to play the game now? How have those conversations been going? On the commercial side, how is garbled circuits actually changing things for you?
Regarding garbled circuits?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. One of the key benefits is the challenge resolution. The cost that it takes to disprove an operator in this scheme is dramatically lower. It is several hundred times lower than BitVM2, and this has a direct kind of relation into how much bond is required as an operator to participate in this kind of bridge construction. So this is lowered by quite a bit. That's definitely opening up some conversations that were previously, we were looking at something like close to 5 Bitcoin bond that has to be locked up in the BitVM2 construction. Here, there's significantly less. We are seeing at least 10 times less, and there are even new ideas that I heard just this week around even more dynamic ways to do this and not a static way. So using kind of a garbled circuit-based approach. And so I think that it's making, to conclude, it's opening up the type of operators that we have and the number of operators and the diversity of operators that we can have participate in this system. Of course, for some, like larger stake amount was no problem, and they were already in. But yeah.
Do you want to comment? Anyone else?
I would like to make just a small additional comment because of the slightly different trade-offs on BitVMX. We decided to go with, when BitVM2 appeared, we decided to go with longer challenge period, more rounds, but support smaller bonds and smaller costs. At that point, that we decided, at least from our perspective, it was worth to explore this possibility of having, a slightly less, longer finality, but lower costs. So from our point of view, garbled circuit brings smaller costs, but the difference for us is really not that huge. For us now, the difference that we can do a single round challenge. So the perspective, the benefits are really interesting, but are different depending on the perspective.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I was going to agree with Sims that it generally makes it easier from, especially not the signer perspective, but the operator perspective, because they are the ones who need to put the bonds. And also there is this now transfer of ownership protocol, which can also change the game of liquidity provisioning. So generally, when you combine this with garbleless circuits, you definitely get material benefits in terms of who do you onboard to your signer set or operator set.
Do you guys pick, are there specific criterion for how you pick bridge operators, or is that changing, who you want to have be a bridge operator? I'm not entirely sure how it works, so I'm asking this on the fly.
Generally with BitVM2, the bridge operator role is either put a bond, basically a collateral, which is, in our case, I think it's 2.4 Bitcoin. And then they need to consistently add liquidity to the withdrawals unless we fail the optimistic payout role, which means if any of them, the signers are offline, then we need to fall back to that road. So it's a little bit liquidity heavy role that's not like a plain infrastructure company can do. It's more like a financial role. But with garbleless circuits, then it's still a financial role, but with less collateral.
How much? I know this might not be determined yet, but what are we talking about in terms of a requirement?
The bond is 2.4, I guess, in our case, somewhere in that range.
Even with GCs, it would be the case.
No, with GCs
what would
lower.
it be?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe Sims has the updated numbers, but it should be less than definitely 1 Bitcoin. Yeah.
$100 should be fine.
$100.
Yeah,
much less.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just basically at that point, you're just picking operators based on what?
Again, liquidity, because unless you implement something like transfer of ownership, there is still a liquidity requirement where they need to find Bitcoin to pay users and then wait for reimbursement.
I see. That makes sense.
And from our perspective, if this is required already with garbleless circuits, then putting 2 Bitcoin as a collateral is not an issue for such an institution who can always find 10 Bitcoin to pay withdrawals.
That makes sense.
To give you an understanding, in these bridge contracts, there are 2 crucial transactions. There's the assert transaction, where the operator asserts to the proof, and then there's the disprove transaction, which allows challengers to disprove the operator if the assert transaction contains something faulty. And in BitVM2, the disprove transaction was around 4 megabytes. And with garbled circuits, you can reduce that down to 200 bytes.
Right, so the liquidity...
That's more than a 1000x improvement, and the collateral was just for the disprove transaction, for the operator to put a collateral to get disproved if he's lying. So now the main part for which you needed the collateral is just...
Right, there's still collateral requirements, they're just not for that particular operation, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just to keep them honest.
Sorry, there's still n-squared channels, right, between the operators and...
Well, channel's true, but you just need a single collateral.
As a challenger, you will need collateral and collateral for each channel probably. Or as a watchtower, I mean, you're
Sure, but you don't need to lock that. Like the operator needs to lock during setup, but the challenger, they provide it in case they want to do a challenge.
Well, if you support conditional inclusion of the circuit inputs at some point, you might need to be able for the challengers to put some stake at that point. And if you still, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit picky, right? But you need to support, you need to have capital to be able to challenge every operator. So.
But the difference is if you have to lock that capital for like the entire lifetime of the bridge, or just for one single challenge case somebody is malicious.
But you need that availability if you assume 1 out of n. It's a small detail, but
you have to be able to pay that capital, but you don't have to lock it. Yeah.
I'm curious also, some of you are doing kind of like a more modular style implementation where you're like kind of plugging into other L2 environments, for lack of a better word. Some of you are like not doing that. You're just going full, we're a roll up, that's it. Do you want to share kind of what your strategy is and why you picked that kind of direction?
So the Clementine is built for Citrea, but obviously it's a technology that will probably be commercialized like in a year or two for across all the bridges that's built. For us, Citrea is the first and only priority, so we don't have plans to just like have other chains use the bridge. If they want to, they can, but this is not something that our company do.
We haven't shared much around this, but we're building the systems we're building today. It is being built like it's designed basically to be a shared bridge that multiple execution layers can access. And we the way that we think about this BTC generally is we want it to be the open standard BTC in any kind of programmable context, any programmable chain, as opposed to, let's say, CBBTC, which is the closed standard BTC, or WBTC, which is the closed standard BTC. What I mean by that is, we look at the one of n assumption around this. There are a bunch of custodians, non-custodial wallets, exchanges, etc., that want to tap into various kinds of DeFi protocols that might be only available in more programmable chains, whether that's Bitcoin-backed loans or whether that's yield or some other kinds of things. Today, the way that they can do that is probably, if you're a custodian, you hand off your user's BTC to another custodian, maybe Coinbase, that's probably your competitor, and then get access to those protocols via Base. No one wants to do that. I think the industry adoption will happen with a one of n style protocol. Eventually, we need to make it trustless. This is the best that we can do under the current constraints of Bitcoin. But even the one of n allows for these different maybe call it distribution partners or different exchanges, custodians, etc., to be part of that signer set, the operator set. So they are one of the n. They don't take additional counterparty risks, and neither do users that might be already trusting them. And so in that vein, we also want this bridge, like the positioning of this is it is the open standard BTC. It is not the closed standard, and multiple ecosystems should be able to share this bridge and be interoperable with one another.
Great. Our approach is we are building BitVMX as a software platform, let's say, that we want to be able to enable developing different applications. The first two initial applications are two bridges. One we call Union between Bitcoin and Rootstock, and one we call Cardinal between Bitcoin and Cardano. Those are slightly different bridge designs. And we are kind of using these two projects as customers to the platform. This is kind of guiding the requirements for our development platform for BitVMX, and we are trying to make it flexible enough that will support additional projects in the future.
Awesome. I want to leave some room for questions, so I think this might be my last. But I guess sort of a big question that I have all the time, every time I'm thinking about this Bitcoin layer 2 movement moment that we're in, is that historically Bitcoin L2s, however you want to define that, have had some trouble getting adoption. And I'm wondering, do you think that that's only because of the lack of trustlessness or trust minimization? I mean, so much of the branding around BitVM revolves around trust minimized bridging. Is that enough to actually get users comfortable? Is there something else that needs to happen to actually generate demand for these technologies? Like, how are you thinking about adoption?
I think it's like a very small part of it, I will say. It is an important building block for developers to understand on the platform, but not necessarily the users. I think basically as a platform, we are hosting developers. And if they basically understand this platform and these trust assumptions, they will be more encouraged to build on this platform rather than building on Rep BTC on Ethereum. And if you can basically get those kind of developers who are smart enough and capable enough to understand the technology and build on it, then the bet is basically the products they will build will be accessed by millions of other users, maybe existing Bitcoin users, maybe existing Rep BTC users, or just brand new Bitcoin users that will buy their first Bitcoin on this platform, who is more close to the native Bitcoin but doesn't have all the hassles of L1 trying to buy a L1 Bitcoin. So it's, I will say, more towards developers and power users who understands the platform, but it's also like a very small, like if you just build this, okay, I built the best Bitcoin out there, come build on it, then it becomes very hard to actually sell this piece of infrastructure because it's not necessarily the end user product. The end user product is the applications which is built on top of this Bitcoin and platform.
I'm kind of happy that I don't have to do that marketing. But on a high level, I can say I see that, like, in general, that crypto industry market is kind of like tilting towards Bitcoin because it's the superior asset, and ideally everyone would want to use that asset and not the other assets that converge against zero in comparison to Bitcoin. But I think like the first mover advantage of Ethereum is quite big. Like there is already a lot of established community and stuff going on there, and to move everyone to Bitcoin is a lot of effort.
Do you think that people are using, I mean, do you think that like the trustlessness specifically is something that people substantively care about, like the general user base? Like, do you feel confident that people will like make the leap just for trustlessness?
It's hard to say because I think we haven't seen a trusted Bitcoin L2 that does marketing really, really well. Yeah. And if we had seen that and had seen them fail, then it would be easier to answer that question. But we haven't seen that so far, so it's hard to make the comparison.
Too many variables, yeah.
Our initial strategy is really to kind of meet Bitcoiners where they are. And what I mean by that is partner with a lot of distribution, you know, like distribution partners, whether that's wallets, exchanges, custodians, et cetera, and offer things that they can't get otherwise, you know, through the applications that are deployed on Alpen. You look at like where BTC, you know, wrapped BTC is growing the fastest today. It's on Base, it's CBBTC, it's, you know, primarily through Morpho product for Bitcoin-backed loans. Why is that growing so much? It's because Coinbase has amazing distribution, has a lot of users, and directly on their platform, they have a ability to go and borrow against Bitcoin that is powered through these lending vaults on Base. Distribution is so important, like to be able to create those kinds of experiences, you know, in different platforms where people already might have their Bitcoin or might bring their Bitcoin to access these kinds of things. And of course, UX is part of that as well. You know, the alternative is like I would go get a MetaMask and try to, you know, use Aave or some other, you know, Compound or Morpho on their web app. And like, this is just not something Bitcoiners are as familiar with. or even if they are, there's a hesitation there. And so, our answer to that would be focusing on the UX and partnering with, like people that have distribution. And that's also like a place where they want the open standard BTC in this programmable chain. They don't want, closed standard BTC.
I will give a little more dreamy answer. I think I like to think that Bitcoin users are really into self-custodial.
They're sophisticated people who care about trustlessness.
When the secure solutions are there, they will come. And I think that part of the excitement around BitVM that we are seeing since 2 years ago is because we think that this difference in security assumptions will matter in the end. I really hope, I'm invested that this is the world where we are. We still don't know because until things are really built and the UX is really resolved, we don't know how this will result. But I really like to think that this is really the Bitcoin's users are going to really value this. Yeah.
Thank you. I could keep going, but we only have 2 minutes. So I just want to see if there are any questions from the audience. If not, I will finish my questions that I have. Do you see anyone, Walton? Oh, super. Go ahead.
When BitVM 4?
That's a you question.
Well, I talked to Mika today. He's working on like
I was going to say right before the BitVM 3 audit
encryption,
finishes.
witness encryption kind of stuff, and I'm trying to establish the saying Bitcoin researchers will solve witness encryption instead of going to therapy. And for those who don't know, witness encryption is like the holy grail of cryptography, like indistinguishability, obfuscation, stuff like that. And I guess that it might happen, yeah. Also, Liam, who actually understands what I'm talking about, I am not understanding what I'm talking about. He says it's not unlikely that this is actually true.
Can we set up a prediction market maybe for BitVM 4?
Yeah, let's do that. Can I ask a question? Yeah. I don't know. What is the VM in BitVM 2? I've always wondered about that.
It's like, it makes no sense at all. Like, the first version, the first version of BitVM was actually a virtual machine, and then like that brand kind of got established, and that was the name of the Telegram channel. So like,
It's a strong meme.
we just stick with that. But there is at least there's a VM in the proof system. So, and at the end we are verifying that. So it's kind of like a VM. And it enables universal computation, so I would argue it's kind of like the
VM
same
vibes.
Pretty much VM vibes, yeah.
Nobody's complained about GPT, so I don't think why we need to.
Is that it, Walton? Are we done? I think we're at time. Alrighty. All right, thanks guys, that was awesome.